so-and-so's a little bit better money manager and so-and-so's a little bit more creative. So these are the types of relationships that we like to draw out during the meeting, because that will change how the estate plan operates.
Well, one of the things that I think that would allow people to tend to be a bit hesitant and a bit uncomfortable is, first of all, going into an attorney. And secondly, this guy or this lady wants to look into my personal finances and they want to try and tell me what to do with the money that I've made. One of the things that I have learned about you over the course of the past, few days, even, less than a week even, is that you are doing something that you love to do. And you may not have been born to do this, but if your mother saw this in you at 7 years old, it is not by accident.
Right.
So I would say that I don't know who's the most blessed, you or me, for us being able to be so fortunate to do what we love to do. And I'm going to say, from everything that you've shared with me, that you do it quite well.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
With that, tell us about because there's a process, and like you said, the engagement portion of it is normally the toughest.
Right.
It's like coming out of the starting blocks of a race, all of the tension and everything is built up. But the toughest part is just getting started. Right. So walk us through a little bit about what the process is like, so that the people in the audience can see it does not hurt, ladies and gentlemen. It's painless. It's helpful.
Absolutely. Well, we've covered the getting in the door, so we'll presume that part has already happened. Once a client has engaged with me, I like to sit down and I like to do exactly what we're doing here. I like to have a dialogue with them. I want to get on the same page as them as far as their life is concerned. And I mentioned relationships already. The first thing we talk about, I don't even look at their finances at first, and we talk about just the relationships. Tell me how you two met. Tell me, were you high school sweethearts? I like to know these kind of things because I want to get a picture of how the family dynamics work. Again, because estate planning, the assets are only part of it. The relationship is such a large part of it as well. So I want to get to know the family. Tell me about the children. Tell me about coworkers and neighbors. I mean, occasionally I have a very gruff husband that will say, "What does this have to do with my money? I want to let's get to the will part of it." And I love it when I get that question, because I start walking through some scenarios where I need to know who is actually in your circle of influence. Because if something were to happen to you, for instance, and something were to happen to your spouse, and your children have now gone on to college, who else is here? Who else can I reach out to in the event of something happening to you that I can then contact, that can help maintain your assets and that can provide for the needs of your now out-of-state children, for instance, if you become incapacitated. So I like to delve into the relationships first, and I like to keep it a very casual, very dialogue type situation, because we're talking about death and taxes, and those are two very difficult concepts. I kind of equate what I do to the practice of medicine a little bit. When you go to the doctor and you say, "Well, I'm having some chest pains," the doctor doesn't say, "Well, okay, your chest looks all right to me." No, they say, "Okay, go behind the curtain on the gown. Let's examine what's going on." Well, estate planning attorneys have to do the same thing. Right. We have to really get into the problem and get into the challenges that we have. And you can't do that just from the surface. I can't say, "Well, you're this age, you have this much money, let's put you into this estate plan." We have to develop the relationships, again, with me, so they trust me as their counselor. Absolutely. Because the advice that I give them, they need to rely on that, and they need to be able to be comfortable to rely on that. Because if they don't have a relationship with me, they're not going to trust me, and they're not going to do what I suggest that they do. But again, I also want to know the relationships that they have with other people, so I'll know who's important to them. Because if I just say, "Let's do a will," well, I might, for instance, skip a university that they want to give to, or a charity that they're inclined to provide for. If somebody tithes regularly and we don't talk about that, we could miss that. And there's a little missing piece in their plan. And they say, "Well, I've given faithfully all these years, but when I pass away, I haven't given anything to that charity." So it's knowing what people love and knowing where people put their time and put their money that helps me develop the plan to get their assets in order to give them peace of mind.
Wow. You have said so many words, and I don't know if the people in the audience have caught them, but you've used words like trust and relationship and caring and love. And to be real honest, I really want to draw this point home to the people in our audience. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about an attorney here. You know, I'm talking to an attorney, and we're talking about estate planning. And these are words that, yeah, they're coming from your mouth and from your head, but I honestly feel that there is just that intertwining of your head and your heart as you approach doing business, which I think is just incredible. Now, another part of what you do is, I would imagine you have to connect your clients with other service professionals?
Absolutely.
Who are some of those, or what types of other professions would you recommend them to see?
Sure. I look at my part of estate planning as a part of a whole. I'm a very holistic planner. And I tell people that I'm only one member of a team. And people on that team would include the estate planning attorney, CPAs, insurance agents, financial advisors. I've been very blessed to work with some fantastic financial advisors in the city, fantastic CPAs and insurance agents. And there are tools that they have in their toolbox that I don't have, but it's all part of the overall picture that the client needs in order to make their plans come to fruition. So I will network with other professionals and I will bring them in. I kind of like to use the analogy of a basketball team. If you have the opportunity to pick the 5 best high school players out there and put them all on one NBA team, and you coach one player on Monday and another player on Tuesday, another player on Wednesday, on Saturday, how good do you think they're going to play together?
Yeah.
Probably not very well. If they've never met each other, they've never played together. That's kind of how I see the roles of financial advisors, financial managers, estate planners, is that for all of us to be on the same page and to work towards that same goal, which is the peace of mind and the prosperity of the client.
Right. And you've mentioned something too, once again, another word, the best. And just so that people in the audience will understand, you would not just say, okay, Ricky, you go and talk to Jim. You will say, okay, here's a list of people that I know just happen to be good people. Now, I want you, as your advisor, I want you to at least call these 3 to 5 people versus having the whole city directory to go through. These are people that you know, that you've actually vetted yourself.
Right.
Good about them, and you trust them with your clients. Okay.
If there's a running theme here, relationships would certainly be one of them.
Absolutely.
And it's not just my relationship with the client, but it's the client's relationship with other financial advisors, other insurance agents, people like that. So when I am asked for a referral, I go through my mental Rolodex, so to speak, and say whose personality would match with this client.
Absolutely.
And I'll pick 3 or 4, like you say, and I will say, these people, they're all fantastic. I wouldn't trust you with any of these people, or I wouldn't give you any of these people's names if I didn't trust you with them. But then I would say, but these personalities are the right ones for you. If it's not, go to somebody else. If everybody on this list isn't the right match for your personality, 1, I don't understand your personality well enough, and we should probably spend a little bit more time together. But 2, tell me the types of characteristics that you are looking for in an advisor, and then I will go back and I'll create a new list and say, okay, these people meet the requirements that you. Because again, I want them to trust whoever I'm giving them to as well.
So just can't lose with you, huh?
I try not to.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we're talking with attorney Chad Cardwell of the Cardwell firm, and he is an estate planning lawyer. He can be reached at 901-261-5454. That's 901-261-5454. And he can also be reached by email at ccardwell@thecardwellfirm.com. As we've said throughout, we're talking about estate planning, trying to uncover some of the myths and really use this as a springboard to hopefully more people finding out. And these are lean times, and it's important all the time, but especially now. I know that I've got question after another that just keeps popping into my mind. We want to make sure that before we leave, however, that you have said one or two of the most important things that you'd like to share with our audience. But before we do that, one of the things I'd like to ask you about is, what is it that excites you or inspires you the most about what it is you're doing?
Well, I am very blessed to be doing something that I am passionate about. And I know it's a bit cliche to say, if I can just change one life, then that makes it worth it, you know. But I do believe that. When I handle a client, I look at them as my one client, one and only client at the time. And if I can change their life a little bit, it's worth it. And when a client comes to me with these problems, these challenges that they have, they say, well, you know, this is what I want to happen with my estate, but I don't know how to do it. When somebody has to reach out to a counselor outside of themselves to get advice from somebody, if I'm the one that gets to do that, that inspires me, because it gives me the motivation that they find something in me that they want to be the counselor for them. And then if I'm able to give them a solution to overcome what they perceive as an insurmountable obstacle, that just gives me a lot of, that's what revitalizes me. It's to see them walking into my office with this stack of problems, so to speak, or this stack of worries, these things that keep them up at night, but then to walk out with smiles and saying, I'm finally at peace. So I'm rejuvenated every time that I meet with a client, because I get that energy from them that I know that they can sleep a little bit better at night because of something that I've helped them walk through.
Awesome. That is great. I will tell you, the one thing that I am really upset about is we've just got so much to talk about and so little time to do it. What would be the one message that you would like to share with the audience, because we want to make sure that we at least get that PowerPoint in?
Okay. Well, if I can have two, just because attorneys like to take more than they're given. The first thing is that the time is not on our side. We don't know when our time will be up. So really, time is of the essence. And it doesn't matter if you're 18 or 88. As soon as you get that unction in your heart that you want to do something more than just hope that your family's taken care of, go ahead and act on that. Go ahead and go to an estate planning attorney. Go to one of your trusted professionals and say, find me an estate planning attorney that I can talk to. And I guess the second part is, I'll speak a little bit biblically if you don't mind, but there's a proverb that says, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. Wow. And I don't look at inheritance just as the money, but I look at inheritance as the character, as the name, as the sense of ownership to provide for those who you care about as well. So I think those are kind of the two strong points, is do it and be blessed for doing it.
Wow. Other than being able to reach you by phone at 901-261-5454, do you have seminars or do you have invitations for people to come out to any events?
Absolutely. Yeah, I do lecture frequently, and I co-host and host certain lecturing events. Great. And I have a very close friend, Chris Mitchell with Frost Arnett, and we'll be co-hosting an event here coming up pretty soon. Great. Don't have the exact date set, but if anybody wants to send me an email, I'll be happy to put them on the list, and they can come out and get a little bit of information about estate planning, and awesome. We'll go a little bit deeper into the topics, but nothing too heavy.
Right, great.
But I'll take one-on-one questions at that point, or if somebody wants to shoot me an email and ask me questions, I'm open for that as well.
Super. Well, I will say that number to reach Attorney Cardwell is 901-261-5454, and that email address is ccardwell, that's with a D, at thecardwellfirm.com. I'm Ricky Tucker, your host. I can receive any questions by phone, 901-870-7492, or by email at ricksinternational@msn.com. We can also be found on YouTube, all of the shows, and this show will be shown on YouTube, so feel free to look for the best of on YouTube, hosted by Ricky Tucker. We're really excited about getting an opportunity to talk with you.
Well, thank you.
And Mom and Dad, thank you for the time that you've invested in this young man, and thanks for all that you've done.
Absolutely.
All that you do, and then all that that you have on the horizon. I can see you doing some wonderful things. Once again, Miss Jennifer, wherever you may be, thank you for encouraging and inspiring this young man. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, it has been Attorney